I am back with my friend and fellow Montreal Canadiens. I guess fan, I would say. Probably super fan, actually, at this point. I think he is.
Aficionado.
There you go. There you go. With Ben. Ben literally bleeds the colors of Montreal Canadiens and then some. So happy to have you back. Unfortunately, this is a bit of a sadder conversation today. First and foremost, I did want to just acknowledge that the passing of Claude Lemieux. I did some research as per usual, and this guy had won four Stanley Cups, including one with the Montreal Canadiens back in 1986. So that's something to be said.
Yeah, so Claude Lemieux, no relation to Mario. Rest in peace to him. He was only 60 years old, passed away today. Had quite the illustrious NHL career. He was a player that really played on the edge. Had a lot of questionable hits in his career, which you can go and look at some of the highlights of his career. But he was always there and driving the team forward for the big games. So won a Stanley Cup with the Montreal Canadiens in '86, won a Stanley Cup with the New Jersey Devils, won a couple Stanley Cups with the Colorado Avalanche. So he's the exact type of player that you need on your team if you want to get to the next level, if you want to get your team over the hump. And that guy who gave everything he had and really straddled that fine line between, maybe safe and dangerous or clean and dirty. And it's that type of attitude that honestly the Toronto Maple Leafs have been missing for a decade. And maybe the Montreal Canadiens are missing a little bit of that right now. I just want to say, Angie, you're looking very sharp in your
What do
Habs
you
Road
think?
white jersey here. Looks
I
great
know,
on you.
right? I like the white. I like the white.
I
I
love the
do
white.
like the
I'm
white.
wearing my reverse retro, the powder blue kind of Expos theme
Love
today.
it.
So
Love
just
it.
want to change it up a little bit as we maybe try to build up some momentum heading into game five because it looks like the gas is running out for the Montreal Canadiens. They seem to be running out of steam here. They've lost three games in a row now to the Carolina Hurricanes, so they're down 3-1 in this series. First time the Canadiens have lost back-to-back games in this playoffs. First time Dobesh has lost back-to-back games in the playoffs here. Dobesh now is up to, he played 14 games plus another four. He's up to 18 straight games, which he's never played 18 straight games in his career in the NHL. I think he's still looking good in the net there. I wouldn't blame him for the loss last night when you're giving up a lot of power play chances and a lot of odd man rushes. But certainly the Montreal Canadiens have their hands full right now with the Carolina Hurricanes. As a super fan, it's been tough to watch. I mean, love to hear your perspective on how you think the team's been playing and how it's been going for them.
Yeah, I mean, I had a few things that I wanted to talk to you about. So that was going to be my first thing is the goalie situation. Dovesh, I know we talked about it before that he had never played this many games back to back. These guys have not had a rest. They've taken pretty much all of these to like game sevens. So I don't tell me they're running out of steam. I'm on the bandwagon now and I want to stay here. So, I just hope that they can find, yeah, whatever it is they're missing. I mean, we did also say that they seem to play better on the road, but now it's crunch time. Like they don't have a chance to mess up or not play as well. I did also notice a little bit more shots on goal this time, but I mean, when you compare, like they had 18 versus Carolina having 44. So that's still really low. And I don't know if that's one of my big points for them is just like shoot it more, guys. Like I don't know what's happening. Penalty minutes too. There was quite a few penalties there. I did see or notice with especially watching lots of talks online, there was extra men from Montreal on the ice that didn't even get called. So these are getting tough, these games.
So yeah, so I mean, we'll go back to the shots on goal thing because I think that's the most glaring
Yeah.
gap between Carolina and Montreal. So they've been outshot in every single game. Some of the counter argument from the coaching staff has been, yeah, but look at the shots on goal and there's high scoring chances or danger chances or shots from the slot area.
Yeah.
And they're saying, you know what, we're actually not that far behind them in terms of those high danger chances or shots from the slot. Carolina takes a lot of shots from the perimeter, from the point. They seem to get through. They're getting to the goalie. So the shot numbers might be a little bit higher or a little bit exaggerated comparative to Montreal in terms of, are these actually quality scoring chances or are they just getting the puck to the net?
Yeah.
What's more concerning for me is the time that they're spending in the Montreal Canadiens zone. And it just seems like they are, um, frankly, fresher, frankly, a little more aggressive on the puck in the offensive zone. And they're doing a much better job of getting the puck in and hammering the Montreal Canadiens once the puck is in the zone and keeping the puck in the zone. And so it just doesn't feel like the Montreal Canadiens have had a lot of possession and a lot of zone time
Mhm.
against Carolina. And I guess our best players haven't really been our best players, and I haven't really seen, dominant performances from Nick Suzuki or Lane Hudson the way I saw against the Buffalo Sabres, where it seemed like they had no answer
Yeah.
for Lane Hudson at all, and Lane Hudson was making guys look silly. In this series, not the same thing at all. I don't see that same shiftiness, that same elusiveness, that same puck control from Suzuki and Hudson that I'm used to seeing. And it's just been a really, really tough series for the Montreal Canadiens. I really thought Jordan Staal was kind of at the end of his road in terms of what he had left as an NHL player. And, he's been in the league for close to 20 years now,
Mhm.
but he's been really good in this series. Him and Nick Ehlers as a third line has been very dangerous against the Montreal Canadiens. I think the last time I was on here, I was singing Nick Ehlers' praises. So I've always been a big Nick Ehlers fan. And we don't really have an answer for their bottom six. Sebastian Aho scored a goal on the power play last night. Okay, that happens. In game three, I kept thinking to myself, oh my God, Sveshnikov has been all over the place with so many chances and the guys just can't get a goal. And I go, we're playing with fire, just letting this guy shoot the puck so much, and then he comes out and gets the
Yeah.
overtime winner. So overall, it's tough to come back from 3-1 in a series. Statistically, it's only been done a handful of times in the history of the NHL. So there's not. I think some of the optimism might be dying in the town. Like I see the price of the tickets are coming down a little bit and things like that.
That's what I was
Uh,
gonna ask
someone,
you too. How is the
someone offered me tickets for
momentum?
last night for just under $800. And I said, no, no, it's too rich for me, but you go and you have fun. I can't justify that money, and I'm glad I didn't spend the money to watch them get shelled 4-0 by the end of that one. So
Yeah, yeah. I was
hopefully,
gonna
hopefully
ask
the
you
road
about
trip
that.
will do them well. Like I said, they're 2-6 at home in the playoffs, so they have not been very good
Yeah.
at home in the playoffs. The home ice disadvantage, so to speak, for the Montreal Canadiens. So hopefully, getting back to Raleigh, getting out of the city, getting away from the fans and the craziness. Hopefully, they'll be rejuvenated a little bit heading into Game five. I mean, it's really difficult to win 4 games in a row in the National Hockey League. I know that Carolina has done it already in 2 series in a row, so I'm hoping that the team has a little bit of bite back. I'm getting some flashbacks personally here to the 2006 Stanley Cup playoffs, where Montreal played Carolina. Montreal jumped out to a 2-game lead. The goalie at the time was someone named Gerber.
Yeah.
Gerber got the hook. Cam Ward went into the net, and Cam Ward never left the net for like 15 years in Carolina after that. They won the Stanley Cup. Martin Gerber lost the job. He bounced around the league a little bit. He played for the Sens. He went back to Europe. And that was the emergence of Cam Ward, who was the star goalie for Carolina for a decade plus.
I mean, when we talk about, possession and things like that, I still think that, and it's very evident in watching these games, they're still really good at those face-offs and like getting that puck right away. So, I mean, I don't know what it is they're missing. Like, you've been a Montreal Canadiens fan for a long time, but like, do they just seem tired? And I hope that's not the case because you can't really fix that.
Well, that's what conventional wisdom, that's what people, the talk of the town is, okay, well, they've run out of juice.
Yeah,
And this is part of the growing pains of this team. So I don't want to talk about the Montreal Canadiens as if they've already been eliminated, but obviously 3-1, you're really down, you're really in a hole here.
yeah.
And I'm thinking back to some opportunities in the Buffalo series where maybe we could have beat them in game six at home and closed out the series and maybe had an extra day off or a little bit more rest before we head into Carolina instead of playing that game seven, which, game seven elimination game for both teams. All bets are off. It's not an easy situation to play in. It's a very intense game situation, a very intense atmosphere. And I just keep thinking about where the Carolina Hurricanes are at in terms of their progression as an organization and where the Montreal Canadiens are at in terms of their progression as an organization. And I'll tell you that over the last 2, 3 years, I basically picked a Carolina Edmonton Oilers Stanley Cup final almost every year, because it just looked like those were the teams that were really emerging and really on the cusp of taking that next step. And for the better part of 5, 6 seasons, it's felt like, oh, this is Carolina's year. This is Carolina's year. And if you look back what they've done over the last couple of years, 2 years ago, they went out and they made a deadline acquisition for Jake Gensel to add the firepower of Gensel. He didn't want to stay in Carolina. He signs in Tampa Bay. They go out and they bet the farm in a way to bring in Mikko Rantanen. He has a cup of coffee there, doesn't even finish the season with them. They have to trade him out because they realize they're not going to sign him, which brought in Stankoven. So they've been trying very hard to improve the team and add the firepower. They were able to get Nick Ehlers as a free agent this year. They got him locked up to a long-term contract. So there you go. There's that extra firepower that the team needed in the forward position. Um, Honestly, the winger core of the team looks really, really strong. And so when I compare that to Montreal, well, this is Montreal. They made the playoffs last year, but they weren't really a threat. And now they're a threat, and now the window is wide open for the Habs. So if Friday is the last game for them, I'll be really, really sad personally. At the same time, when we look at the body of work of what this team was able to accomplish over the course of the season and how young everybody is and how the contract situation is so well set where all these guys are going to be back for year after year after year. I mean, the window is wide open, and the lessons learned from this playoff run for Lane Hudson, for Jakub Dobeš, for Noah Dobson, that these guys don't have a ton of playoff experience. Caulfield and Suzuki do. This will all just fuel the team going forward. But again, let's hope for we can still can we force another game 7 in this series? Can we win 3 games in a row against the Carolina Hurricanes?
Yes,
We haven't won
yes,
3 games in a
yes.
row yet in the playoffs, but I want to remain optimistic and I don't want to talk about these guys as if, they're the Walking Dead.
Listen, you know what? It's not over till it's over, and it's not over. So, let's see what happens on Friday, because it's one game in Carolina and then one game back in Montreal on Sunday. So, let's see. And you know what? Not for nothing, but maybe, just maybe, this squad, can really channel that inner Claude Lemieux grit and, play with that fire and fix the discipline and really bring back this series to a place where we can feel comfortable about what the future holds. I mean, I'd love to still see Montreal and Vegas in the final. So,
For sure,
go
I
ahead
think we
and
could. I
go.
think we could beat the Golden Knights. We played them in the playoffs 4 years ago, and we beat them. So, and it's basically the core of both teams are pretty much still intact. So, we have a good history of beating Vegas in high stakes situations. If I were going to say, if I see any Claude Lemieux out there in any of the players in the Montreal Canadiens, it would be Josh Anderson. To me, he's there's players that get you to the playoffs and there's players that get you through the playoffs. And Josh Anderson has been one of those players that has gotten us through the playoffs. What's really helped the Montreal Canadiens in this playoff run, what's really been the difference maker, has been the depth scoring.
Yeah.
And to get goals from Alex Newhook or Josh Anderson or Alexander Tessier or some random shots have gone in from the point and things like that. And unfortunately, in these last couple of games, we have not seen that from the Montreal Canadiens. We have not had that depth scoring. And then that kind of amplifies the lack of scoring that have come from the real big guns, which they've still, they put the puck in the net on the series a little bit, but certainly they haven't been the game breakers that you'd expect from a first line pairing. So with all that being said, I'm still quite optimistic. We'll see how they juggle the lines a little bit, if they juggle the lines at all going into game 5. I kind of, it's silly because Dobish has been so good, but I kind of wish they would have found a way to get Fowler in for one game, maybe
That's
against
what I was
Buffalo, and
that's
just
what I
give
was
him a
gonna
little
say.
bit of a break because it's been a lot of hockey for this guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a lot of hockey. He's still young, and you never know. Sometimes you put in the backup goalie and they have the game of their lives. So, anything's possible, and you can switch the goalies. Like it doesn't matter. Like, so why not try it? Why not?
Well, the goalie and that. Let me say it another way. When the Montreal Canadiens had Carey Price for years and years and years, you had a rock back there.
Okay.
And that maybe the team would play a little looser in front of Carey Price because Carey Price really never gave up a bad goal in his whole career. Then when a backup goalie would play that one the next night, maybe the team would really tighten up defensively because they go, it's not Carey back there. It's Halak. It's Alex Ald. And there were a lot of backup goalies that played behind Carey Price over the years. It's somebody that's just not as solid as Carey. So it's Jake Allen, it's whomever. So that changed the dynamic a little bit of how the guys played. at this point in time, I think you live and die with Jakub Dobeš. I think it's too late now. I think he's just got to stay in the net. There's no choice here really in terms of subbing him out. And all these are lessons learned. And we're talking a lot about a young core of players here, but we also have a young coach, a coach who's never been down the road before like this behind the bench. He's won the Stanley Cup. He's had deep playoff runs in his NHL career, but
Yeah,
he's never coached a team this far.
yeah.
And he's going to learn a lot about himself, about managing emotions of the players, about line combinations, about different situations that it's different in the playoffs where you're seeing the same team night after night after night. And you should be able to identify their weaknesses. You should be able to make that lineup adjustment. And no disrespect to Martin St. Louis, who's done an amazing job with this group of guys, and really just to come off the couch or coaching his son's high school team to be this level of NHL coach is incredibly impressive. And I mean, I have nothing but respect for that type of coach. Like, I'd rather the coach be somebody who's can keep pace with the players in some respect, that can skate and shoot like a player can, even though he's not at NHL level, like a Rod Brendamore, like a Martin St. Louis, as opposed to, like kind of like the fat guy behind the bench who's just yelling at you, a Ken Hitchcock type. And I think that it resonates with the players because, yeah, this guy's won a scoring title. This guy's won a Stanley Cup. So he knows what he's talking about. But for sure, he doesn't have the experience of a Rod Brendamore or on the, if we look past the Carolina Hurricanes, we talk about Las Vegas, the coach of Las Vegas, John Tortorella, was Martin St. Louis' coach when he won the Stanley Cup.
Okay,
So
see, I didn't
it's
know
just
that. That's
a
interesting.
huge discrepancy in terms of experience at this point. But again, this is all part of this window that we're talking about right now for the Montreal Canadiens of, okay, it's wide open for the team, and they even have the space and the stability to go out and add another big name potentially, which would be fantastic. Maybe Austin Matthews, wink. Maybe Connor McDavid, wink. But I don't, realistically, it's probably not going to happen for any of these top tier players. But from a structural standpoint,
Yeah.
if someone like that became available, the Montreal Canadiens don't have to gut their team to bring in a player like that. We can bring in a player like that and keep the core largely intact.
Well, you know what? I mean, we've got who we've got. Let's just see where this goes. Let's see how Friday's game goes. And hopefully, Sunday's game. But yeah, I think they still have it in them. They're just maybe in a little bit of a rut. And like we said, they do play better on the road. So let's see. Let's see what happens. But go Montreal Canadiens, go. It's not over till it's over, and it is definitely not over yet. You've taken these series right to 7 games. So if unfortunately that needs to be done again, then it's better than being out.
Hey, it's got if we're gonna win, it's gonna be in seven now. So there's my prediction, Habs in seven.
All
So
right.
I hope it comes true.
I hope it comes true too. Thanks so much for your time, Ben. And yeah, everyone, go Habs, go.
You're welcome, man. Speak to you later. Bye
Talk to
bye.
you later. Bye.